Integral, precious. Jesus Christ! Folks, it's me again, Dr. Layman Pascal, and it's time to talk about socialism versus capitalism. You know, socialism and capitalism. Socialism, capitalism. Socialism and capitalism. I believe it was Friedrich Nietzsche who said, "We clearly don't know what we're talking about." We only have to go one level deeper than the media pundits, which is still barely scratching the surface, to notice the distinctions we keep making between our big categories actually exist within each of those categories, and our notions of dualism do a somersault every time we level up or dig down. I'm pretty sure if our political discourse stays on the surface, we'll only get the kind of results we usually get. But I don't know, I'm an idiot. I keep watching Star Wars movies even when the goddamn plot events go nowhere. We spend a lot of time asking ourselves whether liberal capitalist modernity is all that keeps us from sliding back into gray, oppressive medieval socialism, or whether socialism is the only thing that keeps capitalism from completely returning to a gray, oppressive, medieval, aristocratic oligarchy. Does capitalism come after socialism, or does socialism come after capitalism? Which one goes beyond? In models of integrative development, there are a lot of puzzles that involve debating whether things are beyond or beside. Kenneth Wibbler, who had his head surgically removed and flash frozen in the late 90s to await future resurrection, had these quadrants, I don't know how many, but they made him think that even though the biosphere seems physically bigger and beyond mere humanity, that it's actually the collective sideways condition that's beside a single cell, so philosophically it's smaller than humanity. Ambiguous. And subtle consciousness. Is that something beyond ordinary adult cognition, or an ever-present option for people regardless of their so-called developmental stage? Does it come after, or does it lurk beside? And since I'm usually beside myself, my take is that socialism and capitalism are beside each other. They need each other. Two pedals on the same bike. Together, they have dominated and characterized the last few centuries of the modern bipartisan political situation of the so-called countries on this planet. Yeah, that one. I mean, suppose you like entrepreneurs. Then you need to have an increasingly powerful social safety net so that regular folks can afford to gamble and probably fail at innovating in the free market. They won't do that if they're going to lose their home and health care. If you draw down the socialism, then capitalism mutates, and only a tiny handful of the richest giants can afford to experiment or pay enough lawyers to understand how to get around the laws. That's a Taleb argument. Suppose you like market competition. Well, that only happens if the government intervenes to prevent a smaller and smaller number of super corporations from cheating consumers by not really providing any options. Would you like to fly on this shitty airline or one of the other 10 slightly different but equally shitty airlines, now owned by one company who also owns 90% of the different newspapers and TV channels? Or suppose you wanted to implement socialism. Should you try to do a carefully controlled, massively centralized top-down government process whereby you calculate the needs of towns, regions, and citizens and provide them efficiently with only that much? Of course not. That'll lead to bread lines and corruption every time you hit a bump in the road. You need distributed, overlapping, novel, and redundant production systems to provide resilience, and that comes from personal choice, market competition, and the proliferation of adaptive individual strategies. But those individuals can't do business unless there are roads, clean water, capable, healthy citizens, partners, and employees, and a high amount of climate stability. The market can't do that for us on its own. It's incentivized to bullshit us and skim its own processes until they don't even really work. It can't even protect us from asteroids because they haven't hit us yet. The market responds to public emotion, but we don't emote strongly enough about massively consequential, inevitable, but rare things that haven't happened in a while. The vast majority of countries that rank high on well-being indexes around the world are robust combinations of socialism and capitalism. In fact, you could argue that every single country is some combination of socialism and capitalism. Do you ever find only one of these systems, or do you always find some particular balance and entanglement of the two? Maybe they're the left and right brain of modern economics. Can they only get stronger together? Do they both get weaker if you try to do only one? Who knows, but definitely yes. According to legendary zoologist Franz Walls, there ain't no alpha male strong enough or mean enough that he can't be taken out by a team-up of two of his best beta males. Competition and cooperation always exist together. They depend on each other. Socialism is what makes capitalism work. Capitalism is what makes socialism work. There's even a bunch of economists right now who argue that every great upgrade of market prosperity came from an increased equality of wealth. So we shouldn't be surprised that inadequately socialist countries or lopsided socialist capitalists do business in a way that causes them to have such erratic economies that their profits are wiped out by massive recessions every 10 years or so. Do you know any countries like that? Any countries that have financial collapses every 10 or 15 years where every single presidential candidate in every election is either saying, we just fixed that broken economy again, or I'll fix that broken economy again. PFS. It's pretty fucking suspicious if you ask me. PFSIYAM. Note to self. Download upgrade to acronym app. Looks to me like the vaunted promises of capitalism only occur and stabilize when there's a simultaneous socialism strong enough to circulate economic flow through all the citizens and not just to an elite class of super predators. Maybe a rising tide would raise all ships, but just letting people pump the water up the hill to their mansion on the mountaintop does not constitute a higher level of tide, and eventually most of those ships are going to be laying on their sides on a barren mudflat, reeking of fish and whatever unholy relics of Dagon have washed ashore from the ancient Mer civilizations beneath the sea. Trickle-down capitalism fails. Of course it fails. It incentivizes people to skim the trickles so that almost none of the water makes it past the first couple levels down. Better capitalism has got to be more socialist. Here's maybe a better metaphor. The bottom of the bucket raises all the water in the bucket. There's a plausible argument that if you send stimulus checks to citizens, they feel more confident, move out of poverty, spend that money back into the system, and get the capitalist economy going. If you send the same money to corporate special interests, they set themselves up nicely, but still everyone starves and loses money. Plus, you erode the sense of universalism upon which the collective of free individual citizens depends. So stop trying to take sides or point out the dangerous possible outcomes of affirming one or the other ism. Start thinking about how to make the combination of socialism and capitalism even stronger and more effective for the citizens and power structures of your countries. If you don't figure out how to have a country that is both more capitalist and more socialist, then you're going to have an endless series of arguments and revolutions where each half of the modern economy tries to correct for and replace the other half. Ain't nobody got time for that! Wow, these political and economic assertions are getting me pretty excited. If you're looking for the next level of economics, you can't waste time either defending capitalism or promoting socialism. Neither of them is next level. Together, they are this level. And what the next level is beyond both of them, well, that's what the economic geniuses of today should be trying to figure out and experimentally deploy in local settings. And that's something I'd vote for. Well, that's it, I guess. Let us know if you have topics you'd like to hear barely coherent rants about, and make sure to like subscribing and subscribe to our likes, or else your children will be hauled from your home and fed to filthy mice. Filthy ones. Just the least clean mouses you can possibly imagine.